Jayamodhirayat. Reading this morning from Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 10. 1, 2, 10. If you want to follow along. 1, 2, 10. Kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattvajigyasa narto yasyeha karmabhihi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattvajigyasa narto yasyeha karmabhihi. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion, or even in salvation, the very same tint of sense gratifications, ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all other fields, semicolon. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation, and not for sense gratification, because the body is made of senses which also require a certain amount of satisfaction. There are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. But the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage, or the combination of man with a woman, is necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning, which is euphemistic. Sounds nice. But foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never lured by unnecessary enjoyments and sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth. And that sort of engagement will make me happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as follows. Like so systematic. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Met somebody yesterday who confided they're apprehensive about reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. I asked why. Well, you don't want to be misled. Then don't read Bhagavad Gita, because you'll be misled. But you can read something. What's that something? Misled. What does misled mean? You know, Prabhupada's favorite phrase, sense gratification. In all spheres, this, that, and the other, the other. Religion, salvation, merging. It kind of sounds dogmatic. Maybe, in superficial inspection. But it's something like the dogmatic of Bhagavad Gita that says, seventh canto Bhagavatam, that says, as soon as one starts the endeavor for sense gratification, that's where misery begins. As soon as one endeavors for enjoyment, that's where misery begins. Meaning, there's already contentment of self within, or in other language, the soul is pure. The soul doesn't mix with matter. The soul is pure. Like water doesn't mix with oil. You can shake up the emulsifying. You can shake up the oil and water. Let it sit there for a little bit. The oil separates. Oil doesn't mix. It may look mixed. It's not mixed. Matter is... Consciousness may become contaminated, but the soul doesn't become contaminated. That is to say the light is coming from a light source. You can put filters, this color, that color, the other color, and it looks like the different colors of light, but it's not different colors of light. It's one color of light, and then there's filters. And that's the contaminated consciousness. The soul doesn't mix. And therefore, there's a happiness, not only, Ananda, Satchitananda, part and parcel of the Supreme, Satchitananda, Vigraha. Purnashuddho Nityamukto Abhinato Namanam. The Supreme is like that. The part and parcel is fundamentally or in principle like that also. Well, if that's the case, then why so many things? Why does it appear to be otherwise? Why do I feel miserable? Why do I feel, etc., etc.? Mind, body, and soul feeling disconnected when there's connectedness, eternal existence. How can that eternal existence be covered? With potency, things possible, because the same circular reasoning, because we wanted it. Well, what we wanted was Maya. We wanted separate enjoyment. We wanted to compete with God and be the enjoyer of His property. That's a thief. Enjoy the property of someone else. That's a thief. And the person who actually is the writer, he gives a certain amount for our quota, and we're entitled, but not more than that. And if you more than that, it's your fee. Who's content with quota? It's not material life. Whatever it is, it's not enough. And then the more is not enough, and the more is not enough. It's insatiable. So the Bhagavatam is giving this, the previous verse and today's verse. Yesterday's verse. Remember from yesterday. Paradharma, that's verse number 6. Verse number 9. Never engage in paradharma with the objective of getting sense gratification or getting a material result, perk. And when the benefit does come, don't and utilize that. Don't engage it in sense gratification. Don't have that as the motive, nor if it comes of its own accord, that you deploy it in sense gratification. No and no. Check. And then continuing from yesterday's verse is today's verse. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. It's just underscoring and amplifying and repeating yesterday's verse, or verse number 9 is verse number 10. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal. So what's the goal? If it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, what is it? You know, it's stated inquiry, Brahma Jigyasa, inquiry into the absolute truth. Supposing you don't really know. Supposing you're honest and you don't really know. So that's fine to be honest and don't really know. It's also fine. But then you're still inquiring because you don't know. You know that you don't know. And still inquiring. And pursuit inquiry means that's a path to move towards. And then that inquiry needs to be connected with one who knows. And then when one hears that, like the student asked me yesterday, they're purposefully apprehensive, subjectively apprehensive, because they don't want to be this thing. They don't want to buy into that. Or is this isn't what that is? So they're stuck. That the absence of submission is another phase of rebellion. Give it a nice name, perfume it, and put a ribbon and a bow on it, but it's still aversion to the supreme. And they want, but they don't want. They came to the program because they want, but they're reluctant to read Bhagavad Gita because they don't want. Stuck. And some people are less stuck. They're reading Bhagavad Gita, but they're not really reading with the purpose of inquiry into the absolute truth. It may start like that, but after some time, does it continue like that? Same inquisitiveness. It's something like in Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's description of the stages of bhakti, the book is Madhurya Vedanta, the stages of bhakti. And the first stage of bhakti, what's the first stage of bhakti? Adao. And then there are different terms, 8 more. Sufficiently. Nishtha and Asakti, he described, Mahaprabhu describes, in these elevated stages, sadhu sangha is equally imperative. In the stage of bhava bhakti, the stage of prema bhakti, sadhu sangha is imperative. Because it's like faith, it's nourishing faith in different stages. So we need sadhu sangha corresponding to the position of faith that we have. So it goes further, up to prema. But sadhu sangha is imperative at every step, That's a fundamental teaching. Of course, sadhu sangha, what is that? Who is sadhu and how does one associate with sadhu? And that's, it's a nice teaching. And how to not offend. And how to serve favorably. So there's qualifiers, but the principle is imperative. So here, back to the series of verses in Canto 1, Chapter 2, the previous verse is being amplified by today's verse. The objective should never be sense gratification. It's like two verses saying the same thing. Duet, strong, repetition. And then that's what one shouldn't do. Then what should one do? Inquire into the absolute truth. And inquiry, as it matures, it leads to some understanding, and understanding, to mature the understanding, it has to be applied. Jnana must be applied. Then it becomes realized. Say it the other way. Without application, realization isn't going to come. It stays theoretical, which is fine. But it's not, it doesn't satisfy, atma saprasidati. Doesn't bring satisfaction. And with it's the satisfaction that drives away the allure for other stuff. The vairagya, jnana vairagya. When jnana is applied, then it becomes vijnana. And with vijnana, then there's detachment from something, from anything else. So, progressive bhakti is, the focus gets stronger. It's, one of the ways that each of us can examine ourselves. Others can examine, and we can examine ourselves. To what extent is there an undistracted focus on the subject matter of hearing and chanting? So there's the activity, bhakti, and then there's the object. And to what degree is there feelings of affinity for the topics, which means affinity for the person? Not speculative affinity, but the affinity that doesn't waver. And so supposing one says, well, I'm not there yet. Welcome to the club. There's lots of members of that club. So how can one move forward? Sadhu Sangha. With sadhus that are really dedicated. And therefore we like Sadhu Sangha. We like being in the service of those genuine sadhus. We like. And that's, and it strengthens our affinity for the topics that sadhus vibrate and live by, and gives us inspiration and purification and impetus to go further, go further, go further. But don't be complacent. Don't be complacent. That's detrimental. And it's easy. Be complacent is easy. It's easier to be complacent than to be focused. It takes energy, effort, practice, discipline, tapasya. Like, here's a little example. Little example. Ekadasi. Twice a month. And within Scripture, it's extolled over and over again the glories of Ekadasi. And then the recommendations of how to honor Ekadasi and how to get the most spiritual benefit from Ekadasi. And so there's some tapasya of one kind or another kind, or increasing this or decreasing that, or something that's not just the other 28 days, but something that's because Ekadasi is very special. And I have this desire to be in close proximity to the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Person. And Ekadasi is such an opportunity. So understanding that, I do something. And it's nice to do something with a vrata. You do every Ekadasi, whatever that is. You know, there's certain things that we all do. We observe fasting from beans and grains. Yay, big austerity. But it's the beginning. And then whatever else. But it's not, you know, it's an example of something that's readily available to us as we go, you know, through the calendar year. There's 24 of them. Special. And then there's etc. Appearance days of devotees, or appearance days of the forms of the Lord, or, you know, then there's so many. And with devotion, not, you know, there's the mechanical we do because it's a nice thing to do. So we do a nice thing because it's a nice thing to do. But with devotion, that, you know, there's some appeal to that auspicious day or the auspicious person or something, with, you know, some contrition, some regret that I've been so long involved in material affairs, and I, you know, have some affinity to even today, and I want to go beyond that. So there's the expression of desire, that let the desire be this inquisitiveness into the absolute truth, and then we're recognizing that on my own effort I can't do this alone. So I need mercy. That's nice realization. And then you stay with that. They appeal for mercy while you're making your sincere. So the bhakti process unfolds if it's applied properly. The jnana becoming vijnana, becoming vairagya. And the affinity for the person, that's what's being described in these two verses. And read carefully, and there's impetus to move from where we were to where we want to go. And then we may very well have to go back and read it again and read it again and read it again. That's okay. Fantastic. And then you read the rest of the Bhagavatam and you read it again, because there's principles that are then expanded or expounded, both, in histories. That's what the Puranas are, they're histories of persons who have applied principles that are found in Canto 1, Chapter 2. And then once you know Canto 1, Chapter 2, you read something over there, you see, aha, this wiggled and that wiggled that one over there, because they're connected. And there's this principle involved. And then there's examples of the principle that's involved, both positive, negative. People that apply, people that don't apply, people that go against the principle that's recommended to be applied. And there's consequences. And then there's consequences in our life, not just in the histories. Become complacent, there's consequences. We just, we won't feel satisfied, full satisfaction. And when we're not feeling full satisfaction, the door is open for Maya. One variety or another, one circumstance or another. It may not be gross or flagrant, but the door's open. And when the door's open, rats and mice and other living entities come in. So within the Bhagavatam provides us, protection. Bhakti provides protection. From what? From Maya. The affinity for accepting as what is not real to be real, and then pursuing it. Go, go, go. Pursue your material goals. There's nothing wrong with the goal, but let the goal be aligned with what's pleasing to Krishna. There's the difference. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Using the senses in the service of the master senses. We don't chop the senses. We engage the senses. And objects of the sense in the service of the Supreme. I'll just one other thing, and I'll see if there's some discussion. In many lectures, especially in the beginning of the Hare Krishna movement, the devotees had very little financial resource. And so in many cases, the place of residence was a rented space. I heard something that recently that I'd never heard before, but from somebody who lived there. In the first temple that was in San Francisco, before it was a temple, it was a mortuary. What's a mortuary? It's a place where they bring dead people. And they drain the blood from the dead body so they can put the dead body in a casket and put the dead body with the drained blood in the casket and in the grave so it doesn't stink. People can go look, view the dead body. So it was a mortuary, and they had, certain places where they actually drained the blood. It's like, wow. And then Prabhupada would comment sometimes, more than sometimes. It's a rented house, not a mortuary, but that's radical. But when you don't have money and you need a place to gather, you get what you can get. So they moved from that place. But here's another example is for a long time. The New York Temple was in Brooklyn, and it was a rented building. It wasn't owned. They didn't have the money to own, so it was rented. And then Prabhupada would say, what's the difference between this rented and the one next door? We call this a temple, and that's someone's home. What's the difference? Or that he's made the same lecture in Detroit, which is a rented space. What makes this a temple? And that the other directions is houses. And it's because Krishna's worship is going on. And because Krishna's worship is going on, then this is now an altar. And what is that is, Krishna's kitchen. And, etc. Krishna's paraphernalia. And it's all worshipable. Although before it was just a chair and a desk and a whatever. Something material. How did it become a temple? Because of engaging those objects and the sound vibration of glorification of Krishna. Then that's in the same manner make your home a temple. And virtuous people or Vaishnavas do exactly that. Their home becomes a temple. And anything and everything is in relation to Krishna. It's engaged in relation to Krishna. So it's paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service only, and not otherwise. And therefore it has like a spiritualizing effect. Certainly there can be a mix. Commonly there's a mix, this and that mixed. But a home can be a temple. Where we are, where there's a kirtan party, that place becomes Vaikuntha. The place becomes Vaikuntha. All the atoms that make up the wall and the I'm just listening to this morning, Prabhupada describing feeding ducks, prasadam. Their spiritual life has begun. Then he was saying, you scatter some grains and the birds come. So there's just, he was describing in Bombay, there are Jains, and they like charity. So they give grains in charity. But it's not the same as prasadam. But if it's prasadam, then it's spiritual activity. And it's like, it's the same grain, but offered to Krishna, then it's not just the same grain. It's how to spiritualize others and ourselves and others and the place. And it's not, one can say, oh, silly. This is your silly talk of your Vaishnavas. You talk silly. I can see it's just a table and it's a chair and it's a grain and it's a bell and there's nothing spiritual. You people are silly. So those who don't have faith don't perceive that which is spiritual to be spiritual, but those that have faith can perceive with everything, with the mridanga, with the deity, with the book. Etc. The fundamental, one last time, the fundamental principles are right here in Canto 1, Chapter 2. So it's very important, nice and important chapter. The ground foundational principle. And one who lives their life that way, by knowledge, then there's realization. Knowledge that's applied brings realization. Fire burns. You don't know. Put your hand in the fire. Fire burns. Knowledge becomes then realization. And bhakti has that same power to spiritualize. And supposing one doesn't, well, maybe not, maybe not. I'm on the fence, I don't know. Engage in devotional service. And the perception follows, the realization follows the acting and knowledge. With faith, with shraddha, in sadhu sangha, and bhajana kriya, and arta nivritti. Things, the sequence happens. It's a science. And the principles of the science are right here, chapter 2. It's an important chapter. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful class. Recently, we were discussing about the verse where mind is the enemy or the best friend. And one person said that he never feels like he is compelled to make some decision or he's doing something out of his desire.
Out of his desire.
Out of his, so whatever he does.
Out of means aside from his desire or within his desire?
He always feels whatever he does is his decision. Okay. He never feels like he's forced to do something which he doesn't want. Okay. So he was saying that like he cannot really understand what mind is doing because he always feels responsible for what he's doing and he never felt two ways about something and he had to take a decision like that. So how to explain the role of mind in such people?
Okay, this is just is this a theoretical person or somebody who you know?
No, it's a real person, and he's very sincere. He's not, he's a direct, sincere person who is a devotee, but he feels like he never understood why mind is given such a bad role, and like the acceptance, rejection part of the mind, because he always felt he is responsible for any action he does.
I'm not sure I understand what the person's position is, because by definition, from Bhagavad Gita, there are two functions of the mind. Could you just tilt this way a little bit, because eye contact. There we go. Thanks. So, thinking, feeling, willing, and carrying conceptions. These are two functions. Like the air carries aroma, mind carries different conceptions. Those two functions are assigned to the mind or characterized by the mind. So I'm this nice person, just a devotee, and I'm responsible for what I do. But what's the avenue through which I'm doing? In principle, it's Krishna's energies. I can't do anything without Krishna's sanction. So yes, I am responsible. But what's the medium through which I'm making decisions? And I make decisions, we're choosing. That's their free will is of the living entity directly. So, and the medium for making those choices is the mind. So, yes, I'm responsible, but I'm under the authority of, and I'm engaging. I'm being engaged by the mind, and I'm engaging the mind. Both. One can say either or both. So the function of the mind is a medium through which I am making decisions. I accept something and I reject something. Sankalpa, vikalpa. And I take responsibility for that. No one orders, just like this morning, Prabhupada went on for like 10 minutes. He was like kind of ticked off as somebody was making this expression, can you give your mercy so that I can surrender to Krishna and to you as my spiritual master? And Prabhupada got really ticked off. Pray for mercy so that with that mercy, you'll be able to surrender. That's your volition. And he was saying what this man is saying. Without volition, there's no surrender. You don't need, mercy is already there, free will is already there, and then it's in your hand. No one can, the spiritual master can't, even Krishna can't, and Krishna doesn't force, just like Krishna says to Arjuna. So free will is operative. You consider, that's what the mind does, then you do what you feel you must do. So that that there's the spiritualized mind and there's the not spiritualized mind. And if this gentleman has a spiritualized mind, then congratulations, because most of us are not fully spiritualized. We contemplate, we decide, and then it starts to get fuzzy. And we get distracted, and we sometimes and sometimes not. It has to do with the affinity of the mind as to be the imitation enjoyer, the medium through which the soul, try to be the imitation enjoyer. So there's an object over there. I'm contemplating that object over there, and the mood is I'm the enjoyer. And how can I enjoy that object that's over there? It's, it's sense gratification. So the function of mind is the medium through which I, or this gentleman, or you, or any one of us, we will to do something, the free will is there, and the mind becomes the instrument. Yes, I'm responsible for that decision. No one made me make that decision. I'm being pushed and pulled by my past involvement in material energy, prakriti, and the modes of material nature, and karmic influences from the past, a tendency to something and something. Yes, I'm responsible, but the mind is not a zero. The mind is a primary instrument through which action happens, good or bad or mixed. And I'm responsible for the good or bad or mixed. Yes.
One more question, Maharaj. So complacency and like joyfully performing devotional service, like I feel sometimes very comfortable, very nicely, like I'm enjoying devotional service, and
Nice. Good.
is that like complacency in
No.
disguise?
No, complacency means you slacken in your submission. The complacency is everything to do with internal. The internal becomes external. What's inside comes out. But complacency starts with my regard for Krishna and my enthusiasm or lack of it, meaning complacency, and submission. And then what's inside comes out. So you can observe complacency, but it starts inside. It has everything to do with one's regard for the Supreme. And if what keeps me going is I'm happy, this makes me happy, it's a very tenuous position, because material nature is always in flux, and what's today's happiness is tomorrow's misery.
Because I was thinking complacency sometimes is like boredom or like not
Well,
having.
that's a certain category of complacency, but it's not the only. It's one's submission to the Supreme. And slackening, submission, is complacency. That's internal, and then it becomes external.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very clear.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
I vote.
So a couple of questions comes in my mind, but I'll ask one question.
Okay.
So in this world, as per my understanding, is saying sense gratification is not the goal of our life.
Yeah.
But how can you define the success in life compared to how society is defined usually? Like,
Are you asking for what's the distinction between spiritual and material?
like, yes, like if we don't have like a sense gratification or like limited, we have to be limited, and whatever in our quota, we have to do it that only. So how can we progress, or like, I don't know, how to be success in life? What material people are defined as successes?
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking, but who's at the center? And that's going to determine spiritual or not spiritual, or distraction. And you can take anything. You can take wealth, or you can take, musical ability, or, for example, music ability is a good one. Lots of young people like music. Krishna Kirtan. They like Krishna Kirtan. Do they like japa? No. And you ask them, and there's, it depends on the youth, but so is that affinity for music material or spiritual? They're chanting Hare Krishna, and they like when as soon as there's kirtan, there's the youth, and they're gathered around the kirtan, and there they go, and they can get absorbed for quite some time. But what's the buzz? It's music and it's social. It's not spiritual. Now that's a direction. It's not for all, but some are like that. And then there's some that's like that. It influences others that may have more of a spiritual inclination. So then the experience of kirtan becomes more music than a spiritual experience. It doesn't have to be like that, but that's an example. So back to who's at the center? Who is, there's the intention, and then there's, the practical activity that is driven by the intention. Who is to be pleased? Now, does that answer your question?
Yes, one more follow-up question.
Okay.
So you said kirtan, and we can keep the Krishna same as the middle, but sometime we do the kirtan for the sense gratification, so people please us.
For what?
Please us, praise us, pleased us, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And you mentioned in the class where the kirtan party going on, that place become Vaikuntha. But is it if still we have a sense gratification, still that place become Vaikuntha?
So now, just like last night, I'm not sure what you're asking, but like last night, there was a young man, and it was his first time to lead kirtan. And I asked him later, did you practice? He said, for a half hour. That's just to learn, because there wasn't one melody. They varied the melody a little bit. So he just followed the variegation of the melody. And, some of the notes were on key and some of them weren't. But the experience was really nice. It was really nice. I mean, the whole room was mesmerized. And he's not a virtuoso, but he's not like a music guy. But it was devotional. And it was moving. So, whether it's, for him, the experience will be as devotional as as last night, the 50th time when he's leading kirtan. Is he going to be as devotional in the 50th time? Or is it going to be more music skill, and whatever the right words are, using the right pitch and the right vibrato and the right this and that, and so the sound is nicer, and that's nice. The sound is nice, but it's the devotion that's really There's an example. I mean, I'm maybe not on exactly the point that you're asking, but there was a particular devotee that Bhaktisiddhanta liked his kirtan, and he sang off key. And Bengalis hearing somebody sing off key is like, because they're really good voices, many of them really good voices. But he liked because of his devotion. And he could tell the difference between a good voice and good devotion. And so, if someone praises the singer, because I said something to this fellow during and then afterwards, it was because it was very nice. What he did was very nice. And then hearing about his background, he is kind of on the fence without, I don't want to disclose the personal matters, but he's not as committed as the kirtan sounded like. And it has to do with his upbringing and his family and his sister. And, he's kind of straddling a fence as far as commitment to Krishna Bhakti and commitment to something else and something else and something else. But that's okay. And he has principles that are clear. And those principles that are clear will carry him forward. So for such a person to be praised for his kirtan, he didn't get puffed up by it. It was like a social exchange and so encouragement. That's how he took it. That's how it was meant. So it's different for different people, my answer is. And different people at different times, it can be different. So that comes back around to what this verse is saying. The inquisitiveness and the absolute truth, it should be our focus throughout life. And when that's there, then devotion to the absolute truth, that's our protection. Bhakti is our protection from some honor or dishonor or duality of the material world, affinity or lack of affinity. In principle, that which is going to be pleasing to Krishna, let me understand and embrace that which is pleasing to Krishna. And I stay away from that which is not. Immediately, Vaishnava etiquette is taken care of, if that's the principle. And if I don't know, then someone I will understand, or someone will advise me. And when I receive that kind advice, this is not pleasing to Krishna, to interacting with a Vaishnava in this way or that way, immediately it's taken care of because of the Bhakti principle. Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj.
Same with praise and the absence of praise. And some people get discouraged if they don't get recognized. And then why is they're getting recognized and I'm not getting recognized? The envy and all of that yucky stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
The ladies right behind you, look at that.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So I have two questions.
They're short, right?
Yes. So first one is about, you talked about faith.
Yeah.
So we all have faith, but I see little bit different, like the faith what Sudama Brahman had for Krishna, and the faith I have is totally different.
Okay.
So is faith something very deeper I need to understand, or?
Well, there's levels. Adau, Shraddha, and Prema are different levels, but they're all faith.
Yes.
So different levels, yes.
So yeah, I'm talking about
Like this fellow last night, there was a kirtan singer. He has some faith. He has intrinsic faith. He's a little bit on the fence about, what the object of that faith should be. But in principle, it's, the three-letter word God, but exactly how that fits in with his heart and his life and the rest of his life, he's on the fence. He's not really clear. But the principle, so he's on the right track, and he's taking sadhu sangha. And he's whatever he ends up being. In 10 years or 5, 10 years, 20 years, as long as he stays on that intrinsic quality of search for the absolute truth, he's in good shape, whatever it's going to be. Next.
So it's about the same all stages of bhakti. So once the faith and sadhu sangha, are they like simultaneously develop a little bit in a different percentages, or it's like, after this and like.
It's degrees. It's picture in your mind a Tulsi seed. In your home, you have Tulsi seeds?
Yes.
Many people do. So here's the question. A Tulsi is the seed, A. B. A Tulsi is when it begins to sprout and there's two little leaves that come out of the soil. That's B. C. Tulsi is when there's a mature plant with many leaves and branches. D. Tulsi is when there's a manjari. And E is Tulsi when the manjari produces another seed. Or all of the above. So there's stages.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay. Okay, over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I always like your answers. Maharaj, you mentioned in the beginning of the class someone who's stuck.
Yeah.
So, like from that level 0, I mean, so if someone is stuck, they will not or they may not take an initiative to do anything. They may not, in some
They
cases.
may not. They may. They may not.
They may not. But if they are not, what is the least that we can do?
What's the what?
What is the least
Least?
that we can
Well, it
do?
depends on the person. Come on.
So,
What are you looking for?
I mean, somebody is not moving, so you have to move them. I mean, you want them to.
But you can't move people. They can move themselves. Sorry. Movement does not get pushed. That's not movement. It's that, Krishna doesn't do that. I got through saying that. Even Krishna, this is what Prabhupada was saying, just this, in the recording I was hearing this morning. Even Krishna doesn't interfere with free will. So what to speak of another fellow? We can try pushing. That doesn't work. You have children? Mm-hmm. Okay, try it. Doesn't work. You get pushback. You may get compliance, momentarily, but not long term. It's internal. So now, what's your point? What's the main point that you want to make?
So the main point is, if somebody is not willing,
Then that's it.
that's it.
The willing has to come from within. And then treading water. Generally, water moves. You don't just tread. If you're not progressing, you're regressing. Hand him the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. On the point of being stuck itself, the question is, how does it...
The same stuck thing?
But it's a self-realization question maybe. How does a devotee realize that he or she is getting stuck or going to be stuck in the path of bhakti?
Ask your dear friends. You can introspect, but the introspection is simple. I'm looking at my bead bag or the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita or my deities, and what am I feeling? Am I, as I was when I first started, looking at my feedback and saying, wow, or am I not? You know, so then with that wow comes that I'm not distracted by, I'm less distracted by stuff. Or conversely, if I'm more distracted by stuff, that's a sign. Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, there's a question in the back. Go, you do.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So you talked about the preliminary faith that we need to have. So I recently had a discussion with my friend, like even though we are from the same background, like there are like people who straight away reject or like blindly doubt. Like how do we inspire them? And also like as they are like too much into modern science, they say that like faith is something which you need to, basically it says that like we need to have faith on something which we don't know.
You need to have what?
Yeah.
Slower.
So, so my friend who is like been into learning this all scientific things, so he doesn't believe in kind of faith concept because faith is something which we don't know about. That's what his argument is.
Oh, that means he has another kind of faith, that's all. He has faith in his mind. And you know, Mr. Scientist so-and-so. And then another comes another one, and I like that one. So the faith is operative. It's the soul is as long as there's a soul, there's faith in something. He can say, I don't have faith. That means he has a certain kind of faith. It's rhetoric. But, you know, what's the principle of faith anyways? You know, I have confidence that there's light here, or there's truth, or there's meaning, or there's happiness. You know, boil it down to what Prabhupada is saying here, sense gratification of different flavors, or different, subtle and gross. So now that's your friend, but you started something else, then you went over to your friend. What was the starting point?
So like I want to understand how do we inspire them, like
how do you inspire them? Be their friend. What does being a friend of somebody mean? There's a nice, I circulate it all the time. Have I sent that to you? A friend is, yes. He'll circulate it. And it's very simple. It's like very simple. A friend is one who knows who you are, they accept where you've been, and they, at the same time, they gently encourage you to grow. So what's the gently encourage you to grow is not the sum total of what a friend is, but there's the acceptance. My friend is X, and I accept it. There's things that got him to the point X. And those things that got him to the point X, I accept. That's the little package that he's in. And I don't judge him or, want to kick him or move him or something. I accept. And at the same time, gently encourage him to grow. So then it takes being a friend to know that's going to be gentle enough that he'll smile. And too strong that it's like he isn't smiling anymore. So this non-judgmental acceptance and encouragement to grow. And then, that depends on the person. What is going to resonate that'll be, he'll smile. He'll say, that's nice. I like that. Like just say being vegetarian. Just take something simple. How do you encourage somebody that's not a vegetarian to become a vegetarian?
You can try to explain them.
You serve them nice prasadam. Then you explain the principle of violence and the consequence of violence. It for one as an individual, or the world as a world that's violent, and that what's the result? It's violence. We don't like violence, but we're violently abusing other forms of life for our sense gratification. So we don't have to like hit them over the head with that message, but it's part of depending upon the person. And get nice prasadam. And it's easy. It's gentle. Some people become vegetarian just coming to Govindas because it's nice. And then they learn about it that way. Anyway, it's gentle and effective. So it depends on the person. Okay?
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, one last question, then he's going to do the last question back there, the online question.
Yeah. So I have a question about Krishna's qualities.
About what?
Krishna qualities.
Krishna's qualities.
Yeah. So like usually the individuals we see in this material world have some dominant personality trait. Like someone is gentle, someone is like reserved, someone is like outspoken, someone is like pretty straightforward. So I know that like we read from Nectar of Devotion that Krishna has like 64 qualities and many unlimited qualities. Like is there any dominant personality trait for Krishna? Because like usually when I think about a person, like I initially get the feeling of his personality trait. Like, but whenever I think of Krishna, there is like many qualities I cannot try to understand. Like even though I've been hearing. So is there any dominant personality trait like
in Krishna?
Krishna, yeah.
What do you think?
He has everything. That's what I am not able to
No,
think.
the question is there a dominant one? And I'm asking you. This is what we did last night. The icebreaker was pass around the microphone, say your name, and when you think of God, in one word, what's something you think of? So, one can say merciful, or one can say whatever. Beauty, wisdom, and take. So, but is there a dominant one? Loving, compassionate, merciful, something in that direction. At least that's just what comes to mind for me. And a nice example is Uddhava. The third canto Bhagavatam, Vidura's on pilgrimage. He meets Uddhava in a forest in Vrindavan of all places. Uddhava, what are you doing here? How nice to see you. How's Krishna? How's Balaram? How's Ugrasena? How's the Yadu dynasty? Da. Because he's seeing Uddhava. It reminds him of Krishna. And Uddhava goes into trance because he's absorbed in thought of Krishna. And then he struggles to become externally conscious so he can be responsive to this very senior Vaishnava, Uddhava. And he speaks about Krishna in terms of his compassion and speaks of Putana. So that's one outstanding feature that Uddhava feels. Who can be like Krishna was with Uddhava, with Putana? She came to kill him, and he gave her the position in the spiritual world of an assistant to Mother Yasoda. in Goloka Vrindavan. Who can be so merciful? She came to kill him, and he knew it. And look what he did. So, different, because your question was an outstanding of the many, many unlimited. What's an outstanding? Is there a predominant outstanding? For Uddhava, that's his merciful nature. And it's true with everyone, what to speak of Putana. No, and any other trait is also his. The other 63. And then the unlimited. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is an online question from yesterday, which we could not bring it up. This is from Leon Levy.
He wrote to me this one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How can one tolerate bad association if we are forced
He wrote
forced
this
into
one.
it by
I
circumstances?
didn't answer. How do you become tolerant when it's intolerable? That's the question. You start with what you can do. Tongue statiksha swabharata, matra sparsha, just first instruction, Bhagavad Gita. And just follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita to your capacity. And so something is intolerable. What are you going to do about the intolerable? You tolerate it. You can leave the circumstance, but sometimes you can't leave. Sometimes you're confined by circumstance. I would recommend his name is Lilakar, that's his devotee name. So I recommend that Lilakar reads, what's the author? A Jewish man that was in a Nazi concentration camp and survived, and then wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. And his name is, who knows his name? I forget, his name just escaped me. Huh? I'll think of it after class, but right now my mind is blank. Man's Search for Meaning. He can read that book because he gives answers to that question. When there's nothing you can do, you're in a Nazi concentration camp and you're confined. Huh? Viktor Frankl. Lilakar, that's where to go.
Okay.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So it is Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai. Guru Maharaj Dhriti, a teenager, is going to give a quick summary of your class. Dhriti, you can come up here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hi, Paul. You take good notes?
No,
Did you take good notes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So you start off the class with talking about your example of a college student who just felt really unsure or on the fence. And you said an endeavors for enjoyment is where a misery begins, which really stuck with me. And you also then talk about the oil and the water analogy to consciousness that can be contaminated by the soul. And then you go on to talk about a lot about bhakti and the different stages. And you started talking a little bit about sadhu sangha and talking who's sadhu, how does one associate with sadhu, how does one not to offend, how to serve favorably, and that a principle is imperative. And then another thing that stuck with me is that without application, realization is nothing. I've kind of realized that I was going through my my life with Krishna. And then you go on to talk about bhakti and how everyone's form of bhakti is different and how they show bhakti is different. Taking Ekadashi, how my dad, for example, he fasts the whole entire day while I try to do just no grains, and everyone's bhakti is different. And Ekadashi is a great example to show how everyone shows their bhakti. And then you go on to talk about...
That's a lot of topics I covered, huh?
Yes, Maharaj. And then you talk about bhakti provides protection from Maya. And I think the last point you bring up was Prabhupada and how y'all were staying in the mortuary, is that how, mortuary? And what I really realized from there is that a regular person may see a pillow as a pillow or a TV as a TV, but as devotees see a pillow as a way to put Laddu Gopal on there, or we use a TV for your presentations. So how every modern thing or material things can be used in a way
Yeah.
if we put our love for it.
Very good.
Haribol.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.